My name is Jeff Kleiser. I'm CEO of Synthespian Studios. I primarily work as a visual effects supervisor. More recently, I've been executive producing and producing projects and raising money for feature film projects, and that's kind of a new thing for me, so that's very exciting right now. I've got a couple of projects that are getting underway, and that's me. Jean-Michel came to visit me at my house in Hollywood, and we had a lovely evening, and he explained to me that FMX, the theme of FMX this year is beyond the screen, and he was particularly interested in some of the projects that I've been doing involving VR and also on dome projection, you know, sort of not the classical rectangular screen, but more dome and dome projection projects. It turns out that last year I did a project for the government of Qatar. It's an educational film project projected in stereo onto a large dome in a theater that they're building in Doha. And the main thrust of that project is to teach Qatari children the concept of saving water. For some reason, they use water faster than anybody else on the planet. I mean, it's unbelievable. The average Qatari, if you can believe this, uses 150 gallons of water per day. That's 3 big, 50-gallon drums per person per day. And they're not really sure what they're doing with the water, but it is a big problem because all the water that they have there is created in desalination plants, and they only have like 1 or 2 days worth of water in reserve at any given time. So the idea of this film is to teach kids how water came to the planet and the value of saving water and how water is precious and shouldn't be just used at that incredible rate that they've been using it. So it's a peculiar project, and I work with Ride and Show R&S Productions in Los Angeles. I supervise the project, and we used my company and 3 other companies to do the animations, all 10 minutes of animation, stereoscopic, projected onto a dome. So I'm going to show some of that in the planetarium tomorrow. Although the planetarium, because it is 360-degree seating, we have to project the image on the dome, once for each side, so that the people on this side of the dome can look at this side, and the people over here can see at this side. So we've worked it out so that everybody can get a look at it. Then the other project that I'm doing is with my brother Randall. It's called Defrost. It's a virtual reality series. There are 12 5-minute episodes, and it's a narrative project focused on a woman who had a heart attack around about this time, 2017 or so, and rather than letting her die, they froze her body in anticipation of some time in the future when medical technology would be able to revive her and bring her back to life. So the story takes place 30 years in the future when she's being defrosted and she wakes up in a wheelchair. So we shot with the Nokia Ozo camera sitting in the head position of a dummy on a wheelchair. So as you put on the headphones, you look down, you can see your body, you can see a woman's body. You, as the audience, are the woman, this woman who is being defrosted. And as you look around, they bring the wheelchair into a room where she meets her family, who, of course, has aged 30 years while she was frozen. So her husband is an old man, and her daughter, who was a little baby, now has children of her own and a husband. And so she's meeting her family after 30 years. And it's a series that goes on for 12 episodes, and it's actually pretty interesting. It's very different from most VR projects because it is more like watching a movie rather than an interactive thing, and it tells a story. It's not a game. It's a story. It's a narrative piece it's kind of different from what other things that I've seen in VR. So we're gonna project that in the planetarium as well, which is kind of an experiment. See if 150 people or however many people can fit in the auditorium in the planetarium can actually appreciate seeing this world on a big screen rather than in the headsets. Things have changed quite a bit because my company, Synthespian Studios, around about year 2000, we had about 85 people working for us in LA and in Massachusetts. And after 9/11, things really changed a lot for the whole industry. And I became disenchanted with running a large facility and having to go out and find just any projects. You know, they weren't necessarily good projects, just any project to pay the people that were on my staff. You know, so I decided that's not really why I got into this business. And what I really was interested in is doing cool projects, you know, and doing them one at a time and focusing all my efforts on just one project at a time. So that's what I've been doing since then. I'll either gather a team of people together to do a project once I find one that I like, or I'll go and supervise a project somewhere else that I'm interested in. I went to India and did this project with Shah Rukh Khan called Ra-1 back in 2011. It was a big, huge Indian epic sci-fi movie. And this past year I went to China and we shot a film called Neja, which is a Chinese folk tale, kind of like the Monkey King, very well known in China, but not very well known elsewhere. So we shot that project for 6 months in China. And now I'm working with my brother on Defrost and other VR projects. And the interesting thing is that now I'm actually able to get back on the computer and you know, brush up on my Maya skills. It's been a long time since I've actually worked on shots. But the nature of the work that we're doing now, which is all design work, there's more time to work with to develop things and design things, and I'm much more comfortable doing it myself rather than telling somebody what to do. You know, so I'm getting back on the keyboard and doing working with just a few other people to design new shots, new approaches to visual effects problems for future for feature films and VR projects, and compositing, doing compositing as well. So I'm excited to be back back on the keyboard. It's for a long time I've just been supervising, telling lots of other people what to do, and now I can sort of. I mean, sometimes I have to stay up all night to get it to look the way I want it to look, but it's better that I do that rather than tell somebody to stay up all night and not get what I want. So it's good. At SIGGRAPH last year, my friend Frank Vitz, who was at the time working for Crytek, put me into a VR experience where, you know, you're climbing up a cliff and it's you know, hundreds of feet down, and he said, okay, now just take a step forward, you know, and it would involve me stepping off the cliff, and I just said, no, I'm not doing that. I know that I'm on a flat floor at SIGGRAPH on the show floor, but I couldn't get my body to actually take that step forward. And so it's that powerful of a medium, and so the challenge, I think, has to do with creating experiences. I mean, I'm really not that much of a game enthusiast, so I'm much more into storytelling, and so this my brother's project is of interest. You know, trying to develop a narrative where there are characters that you buy into, you believe in them, you follow them. If those characters can be put into a scenario where there is some sort of interactivity, you know, if you do branching, you have to, of course, shoot many more different possible episodes that, you know, the interactivity, you do something and you go in a different direction. It fans out to be a lot more complicated to do an interactive narrative project. But I think those are the types of directions that will engage people who aren't particularly wild about gaming, who don't want to have that sort of game experience, and have it be more like a film, like watching a film experience. I think there is a problem in that there aren't a lot of venues where you can be put into a really immersive screen environment, like a dome or a planetarium, where there is material that people can go and see. But coupled with, you know, stereoscopic dome projection and high quality, I think there are 3D sound systems that are now in development that I've been hearing that when coupled with stereoscopic imagery, that the combination of those two is extremely powerful. And if you can have a sound that appears to come, everybody knows you can have sound coming from any angle, in a 7.1 theater, no problem at all. But now there are systems that I've heard that are being developed where you can have sounds that come from different distances. And when you couple that with a stereoscopic 3D environment, and you have sound-emitting objects that are flying around or in different places, and the sound and the stereoscopic image are linked together, exactly, then you have a sort of much more visceral experience, what I would call closer to a holodeck, because sound is really half the battle. And if you can link 3D sound with the 3D imagery, then you have a way of giving people an experience that they can't get in their home, they can't get, even in a normal movie theater. It's something that goes beyond what we've been able to experience before. And I think that's where you may find that more and more people will be interested in having that kind of experience, and that will then drive more planetarium operators or dome theaters to be created. I think they will likely be used for promotion of other projects. I think like a feature film, we've seen feature films come out where there is a VR component for promoting that film. There's a VR experience to promote such and such a film. And right now I'm developing a Chinese superhero movie that we're talking about also having a VR experience coupled with that. That would enable people to see on Oculus or Vive or whatever equipment, or presented in an IMAX theater or in a dome theater or something like that. But domes, I just don't know if there's going to be a big surge of creating domes for people. I mean, the VR and AR experiences are personal experiences, and although I really enjoy watching with a large audience and having that kind of communal experience. I think it's going to be hard to think about that as a big growth area. Well, one is it's a Chinese superhero, the first Chinese superhero, and my friend Stan Lee wrote the story, and we're right in the process of raising money for that project, and it looks like we have a pathway to success, and I'm very excited about that. We'll probably split up the visual effects among a number of different companies. One of the reasons I wanted to come here to FMX was to see the latest work of the top companies and figure out who we might approach to help us with this next project. And then there's also a second season of Defrost, my brother's project. He's going to show the entire 12 episodes at Cannes, I think later this month. And based on what we've been hearing from investors, they want to do another season, another 12 episodes. So that'll give us an opportunity to expand the storyline, create new characters, and probably get more involved in visual effects. It's set in the future, so there's an opportunity to speculate about what the future might hold for all of us visually. And so that's an exciting challenge that I look forward to tackling with Randall, and also my friend Tom DeSanta, who's a producer that we're working with. We're on the lot now at Universal, doing mostly development work, which is so much fun. I've been going to these shows for quite a long time. I went to Nicograph in Tokyo and Paragraph in Paris, and for a while there was Imagina in Monte Carlo, and 3D Festival in Copenhagen. And this is I think my third time speaking at FMX, and I've just found that where those other organizations, those other shows were fun, this one seems to be extremely well organized, extremely well managed, and at the basis of it is their relationship with Film Academy, where I think they have a phenomenal program, and that's kind of the turbine that keeps it all together. There's always a new class of very talented people coming out of Film Academy, and they're doing great work. And so it's always exciting to come here and see what they're up to. There's a dinner there tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing what the students have come up with this year. And many of the big companies that I've been working with have been hiring people from Film Academy. It's one of the top places. So I think that's one of the real reasons that it's relevant. And it's the last sort of big conference in Europe where people come every year and you can sort of depend on it continuing rather than sort of fading out and coming back. And some of the Imagine it came back for a while, and then I don't think it's running anymore. But FMX seems to be very solid, very well organized, and great people to collaborate with.